Ladies and gentlemen, here today we are live for full coverage of the Coke Zero Sugar 400 qualifying session from the Daytona International Speedway. Today's coverage, as far as the telecast goes, on the USA Network, as we're just minutes away from the first car hitting the racetrack. For our first on following this stream, we will have NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time later on tonight for a night race under the lights at Daytona on their side of things. But as far as this Cup Series race goes, we know this could produce a wild circumstance, a potential upset winner, another driver clinching their way into the playoffs that may be below the cut line coming into this one. Or we could see a driver who has already won a couple of races this year trying to add on to their chase for either the regular season championship or, of course, trying to get just those additional 5 playoff points for winning a race that will, of course, carry over through every round of the playoffs. And of course, we all know those playoffs will be beginning shortly. Now, this is usually the regular season finale for the Cup Series as of the last few years. With the Cup Series having an extra off week this year with the Olympics just a couple of weeks ago, that has led this to being the penultimate race of the regular season in 2024. We've got a full field of cars here for this one, 40 in total. So 4 non-chartered entries will be at the track this weekend. Nobody will be going home here today, as we will have the full 40 car field, but not more than that. And you can see the qualifying lineup now on screen with the raw feed available on NASCAR.com. We will have this for you all day long of NASCAR Cup Series as well as the races. We also do live commentary for Xfinity and Truck Series races every weekend for races I don't go to in person. I was not able to be with you guys last Sunday for the Cup Series race at Michigan because I was there in person. So glad to be back for the Cup Series coverage here for this weekend. And again, that race will be tomorrow night at Daytona International Speedway. The Truck Series also racing this weekend, but they will be at the Milwaukee Mile, and that race is set to begin on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, so we will have all 3 series and coverage for all 3 of the top series in NASCAR this weekend, but a little out of order compared to what we would see on most given weekends. That Milwaukee race, of course, a standalone event for the Truck Series. I believe ARCA is also there with them that Sunday afternoon. They don't even have on-track activity beginning until tomorrow with their practice session, qualifying, and all that. Same for ARCA, but no ARCA stream. With that being said, here for this weekend, I usually don't stream the ARCA series. Daytona really the only one that I've done that for. So as you see the qualifying lineup on screen, the first 10 drivers that will qualify today in this order will be Joey Gase, who's driving the 44 car for New York Racing here this weekend. BJ McLeod in his very own Live Fast 78. It's good to see BJ back at the track. He had a lot of speed at Daytona in the draft. Did not make the Daytona 500. Unfortunately, was eliminated in his dual race by inches to that of Jimmy Johnson. But as for BJ McLeod, I think he could be a huge underdog pick for the weekend. Austin Hill is going to be in the 3rd Richard Childress Racing entry, the number 33. We've seen him run that car a couple times already this season, so another start for him. And Parker Retzlaff will be making his Cup Series debut at Daytona this weekend in the 62 car for Beard Motorsports. Shane Van Gisbergen will be after those 4 non-chartered entries. He is, of course, in one of the chartered entries, driving the 16 for Colleague Racing this weekend. He did participate in the Daytona 500 earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, he did not run that race. No, he did. Yeah, he did run the Daytona 500 this year. I was thinking that he didn't for some reason. He was obviously locked into the show already because it was a chartered entry. So, yeah, he will be in the field here again this weekend, looking to get some more super speedway racing practice. And, of course, again, he will be running that Xfinity race later tonight. John Hunter Nemechek will be after SVG, then Corey LaJoie. Good to see him back at the track this weekend after a scary crash at Michigan a week ago. Todd Gilliland is going to be the 8th driver to roll off a pit road for his qualifying lap, then Cody Ware, Chase Briscoe. There's no group qualifying on the super speedways with the format for super speedway qualifying. It will all be one continuous round. The top 10 drivers from what you see out of these 40 cars will be the final 10 to re-qualify for the pole. So we will still have a fast 10 like we normally would, but it wouldn't be top 5 from each group. In this case, it's just the fastest 10 overall. Good to see those of you in the chat already for the early going to the stream. NASCAR Penske Cup Series Racing, Wade Selinsky, Patrick Shadley. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I do have a voting poll up for who you think is going to qualify on the poll today. Your voting options are between Joey Logano, Michael McDowell, and Kyle Busch. If you don't think any one of those three will qualify on the poll, then you can say otherwise and vote for other. Showing Ryan Preece a scary crash from last season. I will say that was more scarier than Corey LaJoie's crash a week ago at Michigan, but a flip is scary however you look at it. Hopefully we don't see any cars taking flight this weekend in all of the racing action, not just here in this NASCAR Cup Series race. Had our fair share of flips on super speedways or bigger tracks in general in 2024. There was a flip in the Xfinity race last weekend at Michigan as well. So it wasn't just on the Cup Series side of things. Once we get our first car on the racetrack, which again will be Joey Gase, I'll let you listen into some of the telecast here. Lee Diffie going to be making his debut this weekend in the NBC booth for the Cup Series. He is set to commentate the lap-by-lap coverage for the remaining Cup Series races this season. Rick Allen will still be in control of all things NASCAR Xfinity Series when it comes to commentating lap-by-lap coverage on NBC USA Network, and then the final 8 races for the Xfinity Series, which will be taking place on the CW. Billy's Live, Reason Arts, thanks for tuning in also. Yeah, I remember you made the name change from Billy Carjoy.
This right here, this right side fin. Left side has a fin that goes down the deck lid. We've seen that forever. NASCAR has added a fin to the right side. It's hard to see because it's tucked in, but that right side of the window now has a vertical. It's about 3.5 inch piece of plastic. The concept is when these cars turn around, it's all measured. The magic number is called basically takeoff speed. At what speed can a car go up in the air if going sideways or backwards? The roof flaps, the flaps of the hoods, the flaps of the fuselage. That's all to kind of increase that required speed, right? You have to be going really, really fast for this car to go up. That single change right there is basically a 20% improvement. NASCAR had it on the horizon. It was coming eventually, but they wanted to do some more testing after that 7-car wreck. Knowing we had Daytona next, they brought these down, installed in every car. They will this weekend. And it will be interesting to hear the drivers and teams feedback of what it does to the cars in race mode. Back in a moment.
Still waiting for qualifying to get underway here. Again, 7:30 p.m. Eastern later tonight will be the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. That will be a 100-lap, 250-mile event. Obviously, tomorrow's Cup race will be 400 miles, 160 laps around this 2.5-mile banked super speedway oval. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Our goal is to get to 50 likes during this qualifying live commentary stream. Already up to 13 in the early going. Appreciate that. So just a refresher here, Joey Gase, BJ McLeod, Austin Hill, Parker Retzlaff, Shane Van Gisbergen, John Hunter Nemechek, Corey LaJoie, Todd Gillen, Cody Ware, Chase Briscoe will be the first 10 drivers to qualify in that order. Certainly under a full screen commercial break before we get set for qualifying here. When the race begins tomorrow, there will not be a full green flag commercial break for not only the Cup Series race at Daytona, but as well as Atlanta and Talladega. So the rest of the super speedway slash drafting style racetracks here in 2024, Daytona, and then the playoff races at Atlanta and Talladega will be at the very least, with NASCAR nonstop commercial breaks when they do head to break. So there will be no full straight commercial breaks during green flag action for those 3 races the rest of the year. Obviously, I can't, show footage of the race video-wise for copyright reasons, but that could keep our live commentary streams going as I can continue to commentate through the commercial breaks instead of, not commentating during the commercial break, so we know what's going on at all times and we don't miss any moments that may happen otherwise. Billy Kramer also thanks for tuning in. I had a fun time at Michigan. You'll have to let me know in the chat if you were there last weekend for both Sunday and Monday. I was only there for the Cup Series race. Obviously, we did commentary for the Xfinity race on Saturday. Wasn't going to have enough time with a work golf outing on Saturday morning into early Saturday afternoon to get to practice qualifying, but obviously full coverage here this weekend for all 4 live commentary streams. Truck race, Xfinity race, Cup race, and of course this Cup qualifying stream. No practice for any of the Xfinity or Cup Series field here this weekend. Qualifying only. The only event this season super speedway based that had practice was the Daytona 500 back in February, with it being the most important race of the year, the first race of the year. That is why teams had practice sessions then. But no practice sessions at Dega and Atlanta in their first races, as well as their second races coming up over the next few months. And no practice session here this weekend for the second Daytona event as well. So qualifying only. So we'll have to see if all 40 of these cars can take away for one qualifying lap without any mechanical issues. Hopefully that'll be the case. On the bright side, nobody will be going home if something like that were to happen, especially from these open entries that don't run every single week, because we only have 40 cars at the field this weekend. Not sure exactly what they're waiting on here. I thought this was supposed to start at 5:05, and it is now 5:13, and we have not seen the first car hit the track yet. They've had like 3 full straight commercial breaks in the first 13 to 14 minutes of on-air coverage. They're getting them in now because they can't get them in during the race tomorrow. Maybe that's what it is. Even though the race is supposed to be on NBC, this is on USA Network again for anybody wondering. Race at Michigan was fine. One of my favorite drivers wasn't going to win. Yeah, I had a hunch that a Toyota was going to win. I picked Martin Truex Jr. to win the race going into Sunday. Had a good run, was leading laps early in the final stage, but unfortunately, obviously didn't get a great finish because of sliding up into the wall, which brought out a caution late in the race, which I still stand by was not a caution. Luckily, Tyler Reddick at least was still able to win. I kind of went on a rant during my one of my NASCAR 07 streams early in the week. I think it would have been either Monday or Tuesday, following that Michigan race. And I stated, I find it kind of funny how NASCAR can manipulate like the potential playoff, race or whatever. Because Kyle Busch restarted like, what was it, like inside of row 2 on that last restart? Like, what if Kyle Busch somehow got to the lead on that last restart, won the race off that late race caution, and got into the playoffs? But then like Austin Dillon self-manipulating himself to try to get into the playoff field at Richmond, that's not okay. Like, how does that make any sense to me? I'm not saying what Austin Dillon did was right. I'm okay with NASCAR making the stand and saying, hey, this is where we draw the line, but I just find it, ironic that it's like, okay, so NASCAR can manipulate the race, but they don't want their drivers to manipulate the race in any way. I don't know. It seems fishy. It seems very, very fishy. I don't like it. Hopefully we don't see it again. Probably will, but again, we can only hope. Joey Gase is finally on the racetrack as he takes for his warm-up lap here in qualifying. Again, no groups. Top 10 will advance to have a reshot at the pole in the final round. So we're looking at the top 10 from round 1 of qualifying that will still have a shot to go for the pole in round 2. Remember back in February, those back-to-back super speedway races at Daytona and Atlanta, both Joey Logano and Michael McDowell were on the front row for both of those races, with Logano being on the pole for the Daytona 500 and Michael McDowell on the pole at Atlanta, but the roles were reversed as far as who qualified on the pole and who qualified second. So I would have to imagine those are going to be the 2 favorites to qualify on the pole here today. Hopefully we get everything in. I know there are pop-up showers in the vicinity of the racetrack prior to the start of the Xfinity Series race, so hopefully we don't have any problems for rain here during this qualifying session. We can get all 40 cars on track to at least make this thing official. Gates going to complete his warm-up lap. Every driver only gets one lap for their qualifying time. Obviously, the only way you would get a second is if you advance into the top 10 through round 1 and you get another run at it to go for the pole. But positions 11 through 40 will be set based off of round 1 here in the exact order they qualify. Jojo Robert Perkle, also thanks for tuning in. Diffie will butcher the English language for NASCAR. Often add syllables. I mean, that's just because he's got a thick Australian accent. I think he's from Australia. I wouldn't go that extreme. I mean, I'm a pro wrestling fan. It's no different than a random, pro wrestler from another country having, able to speak fluent English, but their accent has, a different dialect on certain words. They're saying what they're saying. They get their meaning across. I think that's all that matters. I don't think it matters exactly how they say it. As long as they have enthusiasm with it and they still don't make any like speech impediments. I don't incorporate that into like a speech impediment by any means. I think a speech impediment is just saying the complete wrong word or, wrong driver's name at the wrong time or correlating them with, someone else or something of that nature. Like that can't happen. And a slip up there from time to time still happens because we're all human. But I'm not going to act like I've never done that before. I've obviously done that on these streams before as well. So Gase completed his lap a little bit ago. 51.395 was that lap time. BJ McLeod is now on the racetrack. There is no alternative start-finish line at Daytona for qualifying this weekend. We had seen that on some of the bigger ovals like Pocono, Indianapolis. Obviously, all the road course races we've had qualifying for so far this year. But we are not seeing that at Daytona here this weekend. I think a lot of it is it being a super speedway racetrack. With this super speedway package, it takes these cars a lot longer to get up to speed. So that is why they're giving them still the whole length of the traditional warm-up lap and back to the normal start-finish line. 50.721 on BJ McLeod's lap time. Austin Hill in the 33 just starting his timed lap at the line as he jumps down to the apron. You're going to be seeing on the warm-up lap for a lot of these drivers going to the outside lane near the wall pretty much all the way around their warm-up lap. And then right before they get into the tri-oval or in the center of the tri-oval, continue to make that dive down to the double yellow line and try to stay glued to that all the way around the racetrack on the time lap. Just because you're able to stay in the throttle 100% all the way around this racetrack, you're going to want to take the shortest line all the way around. In the draft, it's going to be obviously a little different. You might have to burp the throttle in the draft a little more, so that's why you see some lane changes. And stronger lines, from top to bottom, alternated throughout the course of the race, versus in this instance, in qualifying, there is no draft. I mean, you're flat out all the way around. Every single driver will be. Lee Bradby, thanks for tuning in as well. Yeah, Diffie's a good commentator, and he did do some NASCAR stuff back in 2017, I think it was. Rick Allen was out for a few weeks, and Lee Diffie was able to take over at that time, and thought he did a pretty good job. Parker Retzlaff now on track at 49.769 for Austin Hill. Daniel Hemrick is talking with Dave Burns on pit road.
This plate is so special our sport, and very chaotic time of the year to have a race like this, but really, really exciting. Hopefully the fans are pumped up about I am. Just excited to be here and appreciate Circle, everyone on those 31 groups sticking it out all year. It's been a tough year, but when we come to a place like this, we know we have a shot, and the guys really been building really good race cars. So yeah, no better place than to get your first opportunity to stand in Victor Lane in a cup car than here at the World Center of Racing. So look forward to that, Scott.
That would be the fun of it. His only way into the playoffs now, Diff, is to make it with a win.
And look, while he says that it's been a tough year, he's had a really good finishing percentage.
McLeod is going to wrap up his lap time, 49.821. So of the non-chartered entries, all 4 have qualified. Again, all 4 will make the show, and we will have a 40-car field when the race begins tomorrow. Austin Hill was the fastest of those, still at the top of the speed charts with a 49.769. Now, this guy who's now on racetrack is not a Cup Series full-time regular, though he's ran a few Cup races so far in 2024, that being Shane Van Gisbergen. driving the 16th car for Colleague Racing this year. In the Xfinity Series side of things, he has won 3 races, all on road courses. But as far as today's race, or tomorrow's race, obviously just trying to gain some extra track time with these Cup cars, figure out the super speedway style racing over the course of 400 miles, try to make all 400 miles, and obviously if you have a shot at the win at the end, which he could if he's in the race, I'd say you have a chance. We'll see if he can try to get that second career Cup win, because that could still qualify the 16 car for the owners playoffs if he gets the win there tomorrow. So the team itself is definitely racing for something as far as that goes. SVG third quickest of 5, 49.882. Pretty solid lap time by Retzlaff in the 62 team. Being where they're at right now, we'll see how that will be in comparison to some of these other full-time drivers that are just now qualifying. John Hunter Nemechek will be the first full-time Cup regular in the field to qualify today, the 6th overall driver to hit the racetrack. 42 car for Legacy Motor Club. Car bottoming out quite a bit through turns 1 and 2. And that bottoming out does look like it cost him quite a bit of time, because he lost time to that of Austin Hill, who still looks like he's going to remain at the top of the speed charts. Nemechek trying to get that speed back up on the back straightaway. Drivers going to be putting their hands up by that window net, trying to block any airflow from getting inside the race car, potentially slowing them down. Notice during Talladega Daytona qualifying earlier this season, we saw a couple guys trying to do that in the middle of the corner. Makes it maybe a little harder to try to keep a steady wheel. But obviously, some able to do it better than others. Corey LaJoie now on the racetrack. Nemechek also timed in third quickest with a 49.4847. Excuse me. 49.847 for Nemechek. Fourth quickest so far. Yeah, again, Rick Allen is still commentating the Xfinity Series for the rest of the season, so we'll get to listen to him a few times later on tonight for that Xfinity race at Daytona, but Lee Diffie taking over for a Cup Series for the rest of 2024. Maybe we'll see Rick Allen make the move to TNT and or Amazon Prime next year in the summertime if he is to go away from NBC. Maybe he takes over full-time for the Xfinity Series, which will be all on the CW beginning next season and all the way through the end of the next TV contract. LaJoie, fifth quickest, 49.927. Fifth of 7 for LaJoie. So we've had 3 full-time cars and chartered cars hit the racetrack, but there are still 2 non-chartered cars that remain the top 2 on the leaderboard through the first 7 qualifiers. Don't think that's going to hold up for very long as we see our first Ford to qualify here today, that being Todd Gilliland in the 38. I'm sorry, my speaking doesn't seem to be 100% on right now. Maybe he was having that extra Sunday off last week. I don't know what it was. It's like the third guy I've mispronounced on their name. Same guys every week. Yeah, big difference in lap time here for Gilliland. Over a half a second faster than Austin Hill. 49.218 for Todd. And so Todd Gilliland now sits at the top of the speed charts. But that's not surprising. Again, the Fords dominated qualifying on the super speedways the first time around in the first third of the season. With the 3 that we had at Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega. Our next Ford, Cody Ware. And the 15 for Rick Ware Racing is on the racetrack. I don't expect him to put a lap time up near Gilliland. Gilliland did qualify top 10 in every super speedway race this year. His team at McDowell in the front row for a couple of them. Here's Bubba Wallace on pit road with Dave Burns.
Golf, got to hang out with Columbia this morning with 6:30 fishing.
Caught a couple fish this morning. Becoming the ultimate fisher. Good partnership to have if you like fishing. It's been a good week so far. Busy week. But good to be here at Daytona. We know what tomorrow can provide, good and bad. So we just got to make sure we're on the good side of it and execute all we can and scratch it.
Positive attitude for the 23 driver, guys.
Good stuff. Good start to the second too. What kind of fish? You gave us half the story. We'll find out.
So lap time is probably going to be top 5 for Cody Ware. Nope, not quite 6. He was very close, though. Within a few hundredths of a second of SVG. 6 for Cody Ware of 9 qualifiers so far. I would imagine Chase Briscoe is going to have a really solid lap here. Another Ford, one of the top tier Ford teams. And he's going to need a win to make the playoffs as well with where he's at as of right now. It's looking like all 4 SHR Fords are in danger of missing the playoffs this season. It would be the second year in a row that Briscoe has missed the playoffs. If he can't get a win in these final 2 races, both this weekend at Daytona and next Sunday night in the Southern 500 at Darlington. Down on that double yellow line for Briscoe. He should be locked into second place by a couple tenths of a second over Austin Hill. He's losing time to Gilliland, but he's not going to give up 3/10 of a second in these last 2 corners here. So second for Briscoe, 49.513. Yeah, a couple tenths quicker than Austin Hill. Second on the speed charts. Ford's looking fast here at Daytona through the first 10 qualifiers, and we've only had 2, make that 3 Fords that have qualified, but 2 of them are 1-2. And by a lot, too. It's not even close. Half a second difference between first and third. Austin Cindric now on the racetrack. He should have another quick lap.
He's found success here before, winning the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. Tracking quickly, we're comparing the Gaze because he's the 10th. Remember, the top 10 get a chance to run again. Cindric easily going to go down. You would expect him to be somewhere in those 49s. 3, 4, back to back. 2 Penske cars, if they're going to be the 21, all going to run next 3 cars out. So they're going to have a really good idea what they have in this car. And we talk about opportunity for cars outside the playoffs. Well, let's not forget Cindric inside the playoffs with that win at Gateway. You know, in the playoff point at the end of each stages, there's a playoff bonus if you can win the race. And I think it's great for Austin to kind of feel this pressure of the playoffs and maybe use here in Darlington to get a little of that momentum going. You know, it's hard to flip the switch when the playoffs start. It's going to be a good lap. Oh.
It's a second. 49.4 for Austin Cindric. And the scope of the season for Cindric has not been great. So that win was the high point, and it was enough to get him into the playoffs. So, to your point, do you turn things around in the playoffs, or do you have to come into the playoffs firing?
Well, I think, you know, if I was leading this race team, if I was leading the 2, I would be saying, hey, let's make the most of it. No one believes we can, so let's prove them wrong. Let's try to be the, you know, the one that everyone's overlooked. Joey Logano with a normal racing glove. So remember, this is the scene. He had the glove with the webbing that they ended up penalizing him for from qualifying. Creativity. I mean, definitely against rules, but creative. I gave him that.
Tell the folks at home how big a deal that is. Just placing your hand there. I mean, do you use the driving down the highway, sticking your hand out the window analogy?
Yeah, exactly. And why are they doing it? The reason they're doing it is they're trying to redirect the air to give it off that spoiler. Because the spoiler on the back of the car creates so much drag. And although putting your hand out the window creates drag, it's not as much drag as that air to be directed around the car.
Leapfrogs his teammate, Logano to P2, Cindric back to third. Here in the Dex Imaging Ford is Harrison Burton. We're going to share something with you with a special new microphone that we have got. And we take you back a week ago to Michigan. And Harrison's going to share some pretty vivid and pretty honest thoughts that he felt behind the wheel of the 21 Wood Brothers machine. Have a listen.
Oh my God!
I almost just died. Holy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, as a driver, when you see that car, that he could see Chastain tank slapping in front of him, and you're like, what's going to go? And you heard him never live,
Right.
because you can't. And when that thing swings back across, and you think it's going to get you in the right rear quarter panel, you know that's going to be an ugly wreck. Fortunately, obviously, he was overjoyed that that's not what happened.
All right, so as Harrison slots into the top 5, we join Dave.
So, Diff, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is very familiar with the winning ways of a drafting track, such as Daytona. Does this feel like winning weather to you?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I feel it tomorrow. I don't really care if we win today or not. So, I don't expect a whole lot out of our Kroger Camaro today, but I know the boys got me a car capable of winning the race come tomorrow night. So that's really all that we're focused on. We've been, talking all about race strategy and race prep, and we've won here in July and one here in February. So we just need to win one more time here.
And I believe you have another, a new youngest fan of yours here at the track for the first time this weekend.
Yeah, my son Stefan's, is at the track for the first time, so we're super thrilled with that. My wife Madison is, back at the track with us, so fun family weekend here, and looking forward to putting on a good show for all the fans. And feels good to be back in Daytona. Anytime you come back to a racetrack where you've had success before, I always get excited to come back. So pumped about that. Diff, welcome, and let's have some fun.
How about that, Diff? A welcome from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And, by the way, don't forget, we'll be embedded with this team during tomorrow night's race for some extra special insider stories.
Well, it was nice to have Ricky with Ricky Carmichael and myself at Monster Energy Supercross earlier this year. So, as it's well known, Ricky Stenhouse is a massive Supercross fan. So it's good to see him there, and it's going to be great to see him on track here. And let's see if he can leapfrog his way into the playoffs from 25th.
He sent me a text and wanted me to let you know if you wanted diaper duty, you can come over anytime.
I've done that. I've got 2 teenagers to deal with now. Those days are long gone.
I'm trying to decide what's worse. The behavior of diaper duty.
Is Josh Berry in the 4. And it's the same mission for him as it is for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to try and find that magic. Maybe be on the right side of some luck. Have great track position at the right time tomorrow night to get that magical Daytona victory and jump your way into the playoffs with just 2 regular season races to go. And car 4 goes to position 4. There's been so much going on in the Cup Series. Just so much all year, but particularly recently as we take you back to that controversial moment in Richmond.
The 3 had the dominant car, led late in the race, late yellow, brought out an overtime. Green-white checker finish, got passed by the 22, then contact with the 22 and contact with the 11. He went on to win the race and kept the win, but lost kind of the accolades and the rewards of a win. No, that win is not playoff eligible, so the 3 is still looking. They had their appeal this week. Nothing changed with the penalty for the team. The spotter is back on top of the roof. His 3-race suspension reduced down to 1. Now the 3 says they're going to take it to the next level appeal. We'll have to just see how that turns out.
By the way, the official wording is NASCAR represents elite motorsports. As such, its drivers are expected to demonstrate exemplary conduct if its series championships are to be validated. In this case, a line was crossed. However, there's still another chapter to this ongoing saga. As Austin sits in a provisional 6th place at the moment, but he's got some great history here.
With the infamous rain race down into turn 1, rain at the front of the field, and the 3 snuck by, and then this battle with Cindric. And the closing laps went on to victory lane. Yeah, look, I will not be surprised at all to see Austin Dillon tomorrow night in the front of this pack late in the race. And what a comeback story that would be, right? To have the win
the advantages of the win as far as making the playoffs, have that taken away, if they come here and win, that would be an incredible feeling for that team, and they will bring the speed. I feel really good about what they'll be able to bring in this racetrack.
Well, and this man here from Front Row Motorsports, Michael McDowell, who has also won here, he's telling himself the same thing as Austin Dillon. I know I can do it. I've just got to do it tomorrow night to get us in the playoffs. And look at that lap time so far. It is green in the bottom right-hand corner. Michael McDowell goes to the top. Second spot, 49.2, same time as Todd Gilliland. How about that?
All right, so teammates.
Teammates.
Man, the exact same speed. Good job. Around the shop, at the shop, repairing race cars. That is incredible.
That is incredible because there's nothing worse than having one fast and one slow, which, you know, it's hard to explain to your owner and your sponsors why one can be better than the other. Now, being exactly tied, that's bringing it to a different level.
49.218 on the clock, 182.860 miles an hour for both teammates.
And no surprise to see them at the front of the grid. I mean, you know, they always bring speed to these races. Not surprising at all.
Justin Haley, a winner here at Daytona, had a little lightning assist, but went to victory lane in a cup race. Had so much success plate racing or restricted plate racing in Xfinity. He's another one of those dark horse drivers. When you talk about who could make something happen here, you know, I think it would have to, a few things would have to fall his way, but he's proven that he knows how to make the right decisions in the close times.
And it's been very consistent this year as far as his percentage of laps run and percentage of laps finished. It is right up there.
So Justin Haley just wrapped up his qualifying lap 16th on the grid for him out of 18. Ross Chastain with Dave Burns in the pits.
Better now that Lee's on the team. Man, it was great to talk to you this morning, Lee. I'm super excited to hear the race is back now. Him on the phone. Watched a lot of the track and field stuff with the Olympics, and hearing him call some of that was really cool. So glad to have him over. But for our Worldwide Express Chevy, Dave, it's just about getting points, right? I can't change anything the way I do. I want to finish the race. I want to get as many points. I want to win Daytona. So nothing really changes right now.
Lee, I think that means, by the way, the greeting that you're allowed to make it like a track and field call to the finish across us in the league.
We'll see. We'll see.
On my qualifying lap.
Oh, on the qualifying lap. Yeah, he'll take that.
All right, so Todd Gilliland and Michael McDowell getting tied at the top of the charts. Gilliland has that tiebreaker. I don't know what dictates it. They probably go to the next, decimal point, I would imagine, to decide that. But Todd Gilliland, as of right now, is first. Michael McDowell second. Joey Logano third. Austin Cindric fourth. Josh Berry fifth. Chase Briscoe sixth. Austin Dillon seventh. Harrison Burton eighth. Austin Hill ninth. And Christopher Bell 10th. Bell just completed his qualifying lap to sneak into 10th place. 49.794 for Bell on his lap. Fellow Toyota driver Bubba Wallace now on the track. First of the two 2311 Toyotas to qualify today. Tough race a week ago for Bubba after having a fast car early on. Caught up in a wreck late in stage 2. Resulting in not so good of a finish for him. And remains in that very tight points battle with Ross Chastain, Ty Gibbs, and Chris Buescher. Or 3 of those 4 will get into the playoffs as long as we don't have another new winner below the cutoff line. And if we do, then only 2 of those 4 will get into the playoffs on points at Darlington, if also in that race we don't get another winner below the cutoff line. He's tracking in the green for now, which would actually put Wallace in the top 10. But not by a lot. 8th place for Bubba, 49.690, about a 10th quicker than that of his teammate. Not his in-house teammate, but Toyota teammate of Bell. So Bell has been bumped. Austin Hill's lap time still holding on in the top 10 for right now, despite being one of the non-chartered entries. We're halfway through round 1 of qualifying. 20 drivers have gone out so far. Eric Jones is now out on the racetrack to make his lap. All Fords in those top 6 positions. Almost a carbon copy of what we saw more so at Atlanta. We saw the top couple spots at Daytona with Fords It was more of a mix in the manufacturer race behind the front row. Atlanta, it was a complete lockout, kind of like what you're seeing today at Daytona. Remember, in that Atlanta race, a lot of Fords pretty much dominated the entire race, despite the fact that on the final lap, Daniel Suarez of Chevy was able to steal it. Mechanical issues, looks like, for Eric Jones.
Finish your qualifying. That is amazing. What the focus? It's bouncing. The back straightaway is rough, but this makes it look way worse than it is. Man. You know, whatever adjustments they made were not right. I say adjustments. Really, you show off that way and you adjust it for the race because there's no practice.
It's kind of like
Well, that's definitely an interesting situation there for Jones. Did not complete his qualifying lap, running straight to pit road, so he'll be last 21st of the 21 that have qualified. Kyle Larson is now on the racetrack, still in search for his first super speedway win of his NASCAR Cup Series career. Won on every other discipline of racetrack in the Cup Series but this style of racetrack. His teammates found success at Daytona back in the spring, with William Byron winning the Daytona 500, and it was a 1-2 finish in that one as his teammate Alex Bowman ended up second as well. And I will say objectively that Kyle Larson has ran better on super speedways, I'd say, in the next gen era than what he did in the Gen 6 era, in the sense that he is running more in the top 10 throughout the course of the race, leading laps throughout the course of the race, just still has to find his way to the checkered flag when it's all said and done.
what went over and over last year. This was frightening.
That car lifts off, and then as soon as he gets in the grass, digs in, starts tumbling. That was a scary wreck. Watch this thing. This is the part that you just wonder, how does a guy tolerate that? You race the next week.
He told me this morning that as a result of this, he has a new pattern or a new trend. Every time he goes to a super speedway or a drafting track, he has a brand new helmet.
Oh,
And he said, I want that thing extra snug and extra firm. And he said, if anything came of that, that's just one little kind of idiosyncrasy that I have.
NASCAR also made some adjustments. We talked about the fin on the rear window, but also the roll bar padding inside the car. Used to be multiple pieces, kind of all, adhered to the roll bar with either zip ties or some glue. Now many of them are physically attached into one piece. So one thing they learned about that Priest wreck, I mean, even the rearview mirror could flying out of that thing, right? So to try to keep as many of the protected pieces inside the car, we had a violent accident. And the other change that was made was the back straightaway. You saw that grass.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize it took the grass out.
They worked on this because of the 24-hour Daytona race in February. They couldn't get the whole thing done before the 500. They came back between then and now, and they paved the rest of it. So that entire back straightaway apron is now pavement. That's a great thing. That is a positive to keep cars on the ground, keep them out of the grass.
Good job by Ryan Priest as well. He's provisionally 6th as we join Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
It's wide open in the gas, not the speed that they're hoping for, but this guy he'll be in the hunt as well. He doesn't lead some laps tomorrow, I'll be shocked. He always finds his way to the front.
It's more than 3/10 adrift of 10th place. Bubba Wallace at the moment. And it stays that way.
I don't think they're going to love that lap. I think the 47 was hoping for more.
Here's Dave Burns, Dave.
With another guy who can win at Daytona, we know that it's Denny Hamlin. But things have changed this week. Points taken away, playoff points taken away. Does that change anything that you guys do, Denny, on a day-to-day, race-to-race basis?
No, we go each week to try to win. We'll do that these next 2 weeks, and then the 10 weeks after that. It just takes away a lot of the effort, hard work we put in to get the bonus points, obviously. And obviously takes away our prayer in the playoff.
Thanks, Denny. Yeah, I was explaining to me, obviously, the 10 points of the playoff points, that takes away 2 wins. That was big.
Only, just to reiterate, when I talked to Chris Gabe, our crew chief, I want to confirm that it was what we expected, which is, crew chiefs in today's world of NASCAR, you don't know what engine. That's somebody else's complete department. They put the engines in, they manage the engines. TRD rebuilds them. Someone at, Joe Gibbs makes sure the right engine goes in the right car. I mean, crew chiefs have nothing to do with that part of it. Now that doesn't change that they're the ones listed for the penalty. It is Gabehart's responsibility per the entry blank, as we soon know Gregson clocking at 9. But it is, it was just a crushing blow, I think, for the both of them. But I appreciate, NASCAR having to make the rule, and I appreciate TRD's stance. They made it very clear that, hey, this isn't a Joe Gibbs Racing issue. This was our own issue, and they felt like they let down their partner. But they also have taken their partner to a lot of wins with those engines.
And Zane Smith on track right now. The first thing I thought about when I heard about that penalty was Mark Martin. Think about Mark Martin, never won a championship. Remember, he won a race at Richmond, and the manifold, the spacer between the manifold and the carburetor was found to be legal. It wasn't too high, it was welded together. And didn't really make a performance difference, but the rule was the rule. He could have won the championship that year. He didn't win it. Now, fast forward to Denny Hamlin, what I believe is best opportunity to win a championship this year. Will that penalty somehow throughout the playoffs, with that loss of points, prevent him to go into Phoenix with a chance to win the championship? That's not history you want to repeat. No.
Zane Smith, just a couple of tenths of a second outside, pushing his way into the top 10. But this driver and this car and team have had some really good positive momentum of late. But he clocks in at 17th as we join our own DJ Dale Jarrett on the Peacock Pit Box. DJ, what do you make of qualifying so far?
Make Doug Yates horsepower. It looks like it's taking a hold, and I'm very familiar with that. And this was something that his dad, Robert Yates, always took a lot of pride in. When the Daytona, Talladega, they wanted to be at the top of the list all the time. And of course, it's Roush Yates engines now, but Doug's in charge of all of that. And this is just a special place for them. Obviously, they do a good job with the Ford cars also to utilize that horsepower. So it means something to beat them this weekend. And we look at that. And a driver, you talked about doing the right things and how would that affect Denny and with the points things. Ross Chastain is another you look at. It just seems he had himself in a great position last week. Had the incident that happened there on the very last lap, talking some more points. It seems like every time they get going forward, they take another step back. Have to right things, and this is a tough race to get yourself in position and continue that position all through the 400 miles that it takes to complete this.
I'll tell you, Dick, to add on to what DJ is saying, I've been lucky enough to tour the Roush Yates engine facility a couple times, and they have checkered flags listing, they're kind of down all the hallways, all the checkered flags, they have one. And they all are uniform and all framed the same, except for Daytona 500 flags. Those Daytona 500 flags are in a gold frame. It's a different look. This place, Speedway Racing, DJ has put a couple of Daytona 500 flags up. They know what racing here means. And I think that's why you see it. And so doesn't the engine manufacturer here for this Alex Bowman car. Hendrick Motorsports takes the same sort of pride.
So it's interesting. Kyle Larson sitting there in fifth at a 49-44. Alex Bowman right now does not have enough pace to be in the top 10. Now that you could say, hey, you're not providing Alex Bowman the same cars. It's not good stuff. But there's different approaches to this race. This race provides opportunity to try to build the fastest race car, the fastest setup, or trying to provide the driver with the best handling car, where he can be aggressive and do the things he wants to do. So clearly different car from the 48 to the 5, but that doesn't mean that it's not intended. And we've seen this since the beginning of time down here, Steve. Sometimes fast cars don't race well. Sometimes the guys that qualify at 25th when the night's over, they're sitting there with a chance to win.
It is a Ford-dominated top 10 at the moment. Only 2 Chevys in that top 10 in Larson and Austin Dillon as we join the 77 of Carson Hocebar. And very similar to his teammate Zane Smith, these guys too have got some good momentum at the moment. Speaking with Luke Lambert this morning, he likes the way that these guys are going. And just building that positivity with each and every race as we get closer and closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Carson has that it factor. And when I talk it factor for race car driver, I just mean kind of raw speed. because all cars have handling issues. All cars, the right and wrong brakes of pit strategy. But there are some drivers that just find a little bit more speed, either in their skill set, their comfort, their communication, or all three. And Carson's, Jeff, in my mind, at 21 years old, he has a lot to learn. He'll tell you he has a lot to learn. But what he knows is what the car is telling him and how to drive that car. And he always seems to find what I think is optimal speed. Now, today in qualifying, 26th so far. They're not gonna love that. His teammates are 23rd and 19th, so all three Spire cars down the grid a little bit.
Yeah, Luke Lambert's done a nice job working with Carson, let Carson be himself, helping him learn this series diff, how to be a better race car driver. And I think Carson's done a nice job of taking that input, right? And look, you can want to help somebody, but if they don't want to be helped, you can't. And I feel like that's a really good team between that driver and crew chief.
So many storylines, but what if Martin Truex Jr. in his last year finally knocks the goose egg out of the speedway racing column? I mean, he's done everything else in the sport.
It would be great, wouldn't it? And you think about this as his last qualifying session as a full-time Cup driver at Daytona. And it would be tremendous if he could grab a win here tomorrow night, head into the playoffs. He's the lead as far as the non-race winners. So far in the top 16, he's leading on points. As far as that category is concerned, they could confirm that by grabbing a win tomorrow night. His crew chief, James Small, said that's certainly what we're trying for. Spoke with.
All right, fastest 10 as of the moment again. Todd Gilliland first, Michael McDowell second, Joey Logano third, Kyle Larson fourth, Austin Cindric fifth, Ryan Preece sixth, Josh Berry seventh, Chase Briscoe eighth, Noah Gragson ninth, and Austin Dillon 10th. So that is your Fast 10. Top 10 will advance through round 1 to round number 2. Ryan Blaney, our defending series champion and former Daytona winner in the summer race in 2021, is on the racetrack. Blaney not showing as much qualifying speed out of his Ford Mustang compared to a lot of the other Fords that obviously have dominated the top 9 in the qualifying order. Blaney hasn't qualified as well on the super speedways compared to at least Logano and Cindric this season, where they seem to be towards the front row or closer to that. He has been in the back half of the top 10, but it doesn't even look like this time it's going to hold for a top 10 spot. It'll creep into the top 10 at the line, but it's not going to be by much. 2 positions, 9th for Ryan Blaney, 49.587. It'll be interesting to see if that holds. He actually picked up a little bit of time in turns 3 and 4. For a minute there, I didn't even think he was going to have speed to get in the top 10. That pickup was just enough to at least give him that spot for now. 9 Fords in the top 10. Kyle Larson in 4th, the only non-Ford that is in the top 10 as of right now. 9 drivers still to qualify. Daniel Suarez is on the racetrack. After Suarez will be Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, and then Tyler Reddick, last week's winner at Michigan, will finish things out here for round 1. Suarez is not tracking well on Noah Gragson to break into the top 10. Again, Suarez's only win this season came on a drafting track at Atlanta back in February. Already classic 3-wide finish at the line. Over 1/10 of a second off of Gragson for that bubble spot to get into the top 10. Suarez qualifies 16th with a 49.767. 8 drivers to go. Chase Elliott now on track. Running that white Napa scheme this weekend. Elliott to the timing line to begin his timed lap. I think Kyle Busch is going to have the best shot of any Chevy to get up into the top 10, considering that his teammate Austin Dillon is 11th and very close. Although Chase Elliott looking good through turns 1 and 2 right now. Larson is in the top 5. Byron still to qualify as another Hendrick Chevy as well. Though Alex Bowman is currently 16th and well outside the top 10. compared to that of Larson and what may be Chase Elliott as well. Elliott about 0.05 of a second to the good. So probably move him up into the top 8 or 9. Ninth for Chase Elliott, just a little bit quicker than Ryan Blaney. So that will bump Noah Gragson out of the top 10. Blaney now on the bubble. And Denny Hamlin on track.
To go. So we heard from Denny Hamlin a little earlier with Dave Burns. We go back to Bristol and his win, and this is the engine that set the centerpiece of the controversy and the penalty.
You also have to remember how wild of a race this was, and Denny Hamlin's experience really came through in this race. So many problems with tires, and he found a way to make it happen. That was you could just tell, like it was kind of like I won late model races back when I was 20 years old, and that felt like this, and I got the experience that took advantage of it. So a big blow to this team, this point penalty.
And just to circle back, that engine in Bristol after the win wasn't torn down by NASCAR because it was a fresh engine, still had miles on it. So they seal it. He raced it then to a 4th place at Darlington in the spring. At that point, it was mileaged out. That's when it should have been inspected. Miscommunication or something internal in the Toyota camp. I don't want to speculate, but either way, the engine went back to Costa Mesa, rebuilt, and not until it was returned to their North Carolina facility did they realize we have misstepped here. They let NASCAR know, and that's why it was this week that we found out about this penalty.
And if you wonder why there's a sealed engine rule, it's simply a cost savings, right? There's these teams can run these engines up for 3 races, and that's a massive savings in money, and it doesn't affect competition on track whatsoever. So anywhere you can save some money, Steve, a team, and it not hurt competition, that's a great thing to do. That's why you have that sealed engine rule, trying to run engines more than one race.
What would this guy been doing? He first across the line tomorrow night.
Be unreal. Here he is, Kyle Busch, coming up a top 5 finish last weekend in Michigan. So got a little bit of momentum, and he too could leapfrog his way into the playoffs with a win tomorrow night.
Be close to making the top 10. Looking good right now. Still a lot of cars to go after him, though.
Screen when he came to the line, and Busch just slides in to that provisional 10th spot.
And unfortunately, when you say there's cars left, there's 2 RFK Fords.
Here's another guy who knows the road to victory lane at the World Center of Racing, Chris Buescher in the 17.
Teammate car owner pushing him back to Keselowski. He probably got tired of seeing that 17 win. So he's selling himself.
I think Brad might be the best pusher. Either Brad or Joey. I'm not sure which one, but it just visually jumps out at me when they get behind the fall, what they're able to do.
Buescher is currently 15th in the playoff standings, and he's plus 16 above the cut line. So still a pretty precarious position. He would like to confirm his spot in the playoffs here tomorrow night, and he's pretty close to pushing his way into the top 10 as well.
I think that position is even more emotional for the 17 because they've been in for most of the season, right? So if you sneak out right at the end, it's even a bigger letdown. Like, how did we lose this gap? How did we lose this cushion that we had? That's a bullet dodged by the aid of Busch.
Yep. So it's a little bit of a different story for the other driver from Roush Fenway Keselowski. It's Brad Keselowski in the 6th. We head to Darlington next week, and we look back at Darlington earlier in the year. Phenomenal memories for this veteran.
Think about the challenge Brad Keselowski wanted to take on. Roush Fenway Racing had been struggling for a while. Deep history of winning. Had been struggling. Brad saw an opportunity, and that's Brad's personality. He sees positives. Saw an opportunity, teamed up with Jack Roush, the Fenway group,
and now is taking this car back to victory lane. And not only this car, but Busher, his teammate. And when he speaks of that organization, Jeff, he appreciates the history of Roush and then Roush Fenway. But he's not afraid to point out it's now Roush, Fenway, Keselowski, not to kind of beat his own drum, but to tell you it's almost a new team, right? When he joined, it was more than just him, right? They made some personnel changes, same building, same ownership, other than Brad. But I have to give him credit. It's tough to turn such a big ship.
And the time it takes. Time, effort, and energy.
All right, 3 drivers to qualify yet in round 1. The drivers locked into the final round of qualifying are Todd Gillen, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, Ryan Preece, and Josh Berry. The 3 on the bubble on the inside are Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch. Those are 8th through 10th. And currently on track, we have Ty Gibbs. After Gibbs will be William Byron and Tyler Reddick. A lot of cloud coverage for this Gibbs lap time. We'll see if that'll help him. He is tracking in the red as of right now by over 1/10 of a second. So he's not going to pick that time up through 3 and 4. And so Ty Gibbs is not going to make the top 10. 2 drivers to qualify to try to knock Kyle Busch off that final lock-in spot for the final round. Chase Briscoe is now locked into round 2 of qualifying, and on track is William Byron. 24th for Gibbs, 49.792. No Toyotas in the top 10, so if Busch is going to dodge a bullet to get into the final round of qualifying, I think it's going to have to be this Hendrick Motorsports Chevy. 2 Hendrick Chevys are in the top 10 of the 3 that have already qualified, Larson and Elliott. Currently sitting 4th and 9th. Tracking in the green on the front stretch into turn 1 for Byron. Couple tenths to the good off the exit of turn 2 for Willie B. More than a couple tenths now. Is about a 1/2 of a tenth of second. Or a couple hundredths, I should say. Starting to slide back down, getting into turns 3 and 4. The sun came out right before Byron entered turn 3, and that's when the ticker started to go back in the favor of Kyle Busch, but it's not going to drop enough. And Byron's going to squeak out that 10th spot by about 0.02 of a second, and Byron actually does move into 9th, locking himself into the fast 10, getting ahead of his teammate Chase Elliott as well. So the difference between Elliott and Busch, just 0.001 of a second. Busch is now 11th, Elliott 10th. Tyler Reddick, last driver to qualify in round 1 here at Daytona. Reddick at the line, about 181 to 182 miles an hour. Corner entry speed into turn 1 at 182. That'll slow down a bit as he goes through the center of the corner. And it'll pick up again at the end of the backstretch. Reddick going to have to find a couple tenths of a second, or a couple hundredths of a second, in turns 3 and 4. Definitely losing a lot of time down the back straightaway. Doesn't seem like this 45 car's got a lot of straightaway speed. He actually had more straightaway speed on the front stretch than he did the back stretch. Only 179 miles an hour entering turn 3. Where he was at 182 entering turn 1. Reddick dropping down the leaderboard. If he's going to want to win back-to-back races, he'll be starting at the back half of the field tomorrow. 25th is where Tyler Reddick will roll off on race day. 49.774 for Reddick, and that means Chase Elliott will get the final transfer spot into round 2 of qualifying here today. So your 10 drivers who will re-qualify for a shot at the pole will be Todd Gillen, Michael McDowell, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, Ryan Preece, Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, William Byron, and Chase Elliott. And they will go in descending order based on how they finished in round 1 as to the qualifying order for when round 2 begins. So Chase Elliott will be the first driver to re-qualify for a shot at the pole, followed by William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry. Ryan Preece will be the first 5. After those 5 will be Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and the 2 front row cars of Michael McDowell. And Todd Gillen will be the last driver trying to go for the pole. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content as well. We have live NASCAR commentary streams every race weekend for races I don't go to in person. I was at Michigan for the NASCAR Cup Series race last weekend. So as far as this weekend goes, we are right here with this stream yet again. And we will have full coverage of the NASCAR Xfinity race later tonight as well. A little doubleheader on this Fast Friday evening. 7:30 p.m. Eastern start time for our Xfinity race coverage. That will be a 100-lap, 250-mile race later today. Under the lights, of course. And we will begin our coverage for tomorrow's Daytona Cup Series race, the Coke Zero Sugar 400, at 7 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race coverage leading into the start of the actual race coverage all on the same stream. Brief post-race show as well, following the checkered flag and the conclusion of tomorrow night's race. Sunday afternoon will be the Truck Series turn to race this weekend. They will be at the Milwaukee Mile as they begin the playoffs for the round of 10. And again, that is Sunday afternoon, and the start time for that will be at 4 p.m. Eastern as well. The order that you see on the screen right now are the exact same 10 drivers that are going for the pole, but that is not the correct order in which they will qualify. Our order is on numerical order. Again, it will be descending based on where they finished from round 1, so Chase Elliott will be the first to qualify. And both he and Byron were one of the last drivers to qualify, so they're definitely going to have a lot less cool-down time on their engines leading into round 2 than a lot of those Fords that were at the top of the leaderboard in round 1. They got their qualifying laps in much earlier.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. As you can see, our top 10 is set, getting ready to go for the pole. You know, in a lot of cases where we have 2 rounds of qualifying, you can kind of say, okay, who has saved their tires? Who can get the most out of their tires? This is going to be settled between Todd Gilliland, Michael McDowell from Front Row Motorsport. I'm sorry, you can't make up the difference of a tenth and a half here just by doing something. But those 2 drivers in their original runs, so who is going to be able to come out of that 1/10, 100th of a second it might take to get the pole? We'll see in just a few minutes. Come back for the final round of qualifying.
Track temps are going to continue to drop a little bit as we get further along the end of daylight hours here, so it'll be interesting to see if we see a pickup or a drop-off from round 1 to round 2. Some may pick up, some may drop. I guess obviously it's going to depend on how much the engine temperatures are going to be able to drop on some drivers' cars versus others. I asked you before the stream started and into this first round of qualifying on the stream in the chat poll as to who will qualify in the poll for this Daytona race. 48% of you said somebody other than Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, or Michael McDowell. 23% said Kyle Busch, 22% said Joey Logano, and only 8% of 65 votes taking Michael McDowell. We will end this poll now as we are about to begin our final round of qualifying. Busch was 11th, so he will not qualify on the poll. But as for Logano and McDowell, they will still have a chance at it. McDowell definitely one of the favorites for it, so surprised that other ended up winning this poll. 66 votes were casted entirely. So again, thank you for voting there. We'll take a quick ad break and get into final round qualifying here shortly. You're listening live to Daytona qualifying on KRC. No Toyotas in the top 10 for qualifying either. 7 Fords and 3 Chevys. And in the top 8 positions, that's where those 7 Fords qualified. We got the Xfinity Series poll. I actually am not sure. I was golfing earlier, so I did not catch qualifying for the Xfinity Series. Could check real quick while we're waiting. I have all my notes and stats and stuff ready to go for when the race begins. Trust me. Chandler Smith on the pole later tonight. Chandler Smith qualified on the pole. Austin Hill second. AJ Allmendinger third. Joe Graff Jr. fourth. Jesse Love fifth. Ryan Truex sixth. Sheldon Creed seventh. Riley Herbst eighth. Anthony Alfredo ninth. And Josh Williams 10th. As the top 10 in qualifying for the Xfinity Series. While we await the final round of qualifying and the teams continue to try to cool the engines down on the drivers who will be trying to go for another run at the pole, we'll take a look at the point standings here. The regular season championship battle just gets intense, it seems like, from week to week to week as we get closer to the end of the regular season. Tyler Reddick is now the points leader after a second win of the year at Michigan last weekend. That solid points day bumped him up to first. Kyle Larson dropped from the points lead back to third. Would have been fourth if it hadn't been for the Denny Hamlin points penalty. Hamlin was docked 75 points from that engine issue that, of course, you guys were listening to the USA Network's broadcast going over the details into why that had taken place. They were dropped with an L2 penalty earlier in the week. In fact, yesterday, I believe, is when that penalty had dropped. So Hamlin had dropped from third in the points down to sixth. And there is one playoff point per position in the top 10 based off where you finish in the regular season standing. So that could cost Hamlin a few playoff points if he does get back up into the top three. It's 103 points now out of first, more than likely out of contention to win the regular season title. Which, if it wasn't for the 75-point penalty, he would only be 28 points out of first. So he'd still very much be in it. Tyler Reddick, though, as I mentioned, is the points leader, and Chase Elliott has jumped up to second. Only a 10-point difference between Reddick and Elliott when the race begins tomorrow. Kyle Larson is third in points, minus 32, also still in the hunt for the regular season title, even with missing that race at Charlotte in the Coke 600 back in May. Ryan Blaney is now fourth in points, 82 back, 86 back for William Byron in fifth. I mentioned Hamlin was sixth already. Christopher Bell, seventh. Martin Truex Jr., eighth. Brad Keselowski, ninth. And Ty Gibbs is the top 10 in the driver standings. But if we look at the playoff grid, 12 drivers locked into the Cup Series playoff field with a win. We've had 13 different winners, but again, Austin Dillon's win at Richmond, he was docked the not just the playoff points for winning that race, but he was also docked just the win counting towards the playoffs in general. So he still remains outside the top 16. The 12 drivers locked in right now would include Kyle Larson with 4 wins, 3 wins for William Byron and Christopher Bell, 2 wins now for Ryan Blaney and Tyler Reddick. Denny Hamlin also has 3 wins, by the way, but with the playoff points he's dropped in the playoff grid. Austin Cindric is credited with 1 win for Chase Elliott, 1 for Logano, Daniel Suarez, Brad Keselowski, and Alex Bowman. The 4 drivers above the cutoff line on points starting tomorrow night's race at Daytona will be Martin Truex Jr., who is plus 77 points to the good, Ty Gibbs, who is plus 39 points to the good, Chris Buescher plus 16, and Ross Chastain only 1 point ahead of Bubba Wallace. Kyle Busch is minus 93, minus 115 for Chase Briscoe, and Todd Gilliland 20th in points and has a shot to go for the pole here today as well, though Gilliland in a must-win situation to make the playoffs based on being however many points, again, 151 points back from where he is on the cut line. So that is an update on the overall points standings, the playoff standings going into the race tomorrow. Now we will refocus on qualifying once again here as we are set to have a couple guys try to go for the pole. Chase Elliott is now on track, looking to begin his round 2 qualifying lap. And he's the first of these final 10 to re-qualify. 1 lap apiece for each of these drivers once again. Have to get that good launch off pit road through the gears. That's pretty much one of the biggest parts of trying to have a good qualifying lap here at Daytona, is getting through your shifts on point, getting the most out of every RPM before making the shift from one gear to the next to equate to more speed while running again that 100% throttle. So the first 5 to qualify will be Chase Elliott, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry, and Ryan Preece. Once again, be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. We are currently sitting at 37 likes. Our goal is to get to 50. Again, our goal is 50 likes for this stream. We have more than that many people concurrently watching, so be sure to hit that like button, everybody. 183 miles an hour on corner entry into turn 1 for Chase Elliott. See what the back straightaway time will be. Good cloud coverage for Elliott's qualifying lap. That should help him for grip in the corners. Kind of seeing the quite a bit of the cloud coverage for quite a few of the round 1 qualifiers, though the sun would kind of peek out here and there for some drivers. 180 mile an hour corner entry speed, by the way, for Elliott through turn 3. His lap time ended up at a 49.518. So a little bit of a pickup for Chase Elliott from round 1 to round 2. That's an average speed of 181.752 miles per hour for Chase. Now on track is William Byron as he starts his lap at the line. Timed lap, that is. .183 mile an hour corner entry speed for Byron as well, just like Elliott. We'll see if it'll get up to 180 again like it did with Chase as well. Maybe more, maybe less. Got to 180 again, no more, no less. It's going to be very close in lap time, I would imagine, between Byron and Elliott. By the way Elliott had his hand out the window, it basically his fingers up on the roof rail on the outside, trying to block the air. Usually you see drivers put their hand on the window net or right up into that crease of the opening of the window net. It's weird seeing Elliott put his fingers up around the roof rail on the outside of the car. Byron with a 49.435 to get to the top of the charts, about 0.08 of a second quicker than Elliott. Chase Briscoe is now on track, first of the 7 Fords in round 2 of qualifying. He's tracking in the green on Byron's top tier lap time right now by a couple hundredths of a second as he works his way off turn 2. Briscoe looking to keep his momentum down the backstretch. Yeah, he had 180 miles an hour way earlier down the back straightaway than that of Elliott and Byron. Still stayed at 180 on corner entry into turns 3 and 4, though. But the lap times are definitely picking up from round 1 to round 2, and I think the track temps have definitely dropped quite a bit. Briscoe hit 182 miles per hour at the start-finish line as well. Good lap for Briscoe, 49.398. Best of 3 qualifiers in round number 2 so far for Chase Briscoe. Josh Berry on the racetrack, Briscoe's teammate at SHR. Get final season before closure on that 4-car team there at SHR. They will be running 1 Cup Series entry next season out of the Haas Automation Factory. And that team, and Cole Custer was announced to drive that car. Of course, he is not currently in the Cup Series, but a full-time SHR Xfinity Series driver and defending Xfinity Series champion, trying to go for back-to-back this season. He also did win the Rookie of the Year back in 2020 with SHR. Got his lone Cup win at Kentucky in that very season as well. Not as much speed on corner entry for Josh Berry to turn 3 than that of his teammate Chase Briscoe. It's going to be close at the line for lap time, but it looked like Briscoe's got him. No, Berry got him. 1/1000th of a second. Josh Berry beats Chase Briscoe for the current top spot. Berry's had some good qualifying efforts on the short tracks this season. May get a top 5 spot here in qualifying at Daytona on a super speedway as well. Third and final SHR Ford in round 2 of qualifying is up, and that would be Ryan Preece in the 41. What a feel-good story it would be for Preece if he can qualify on the pole at Daytona 1 year to the weekend of having that scary accident here last season. Looking for that front row spot. It's going to be tough to get the front row cars off the front row for this, but you just never know. Preece still tracking in the green on the back straightaway, looking like he is the quickest of these first 5 at the very least. Couple hundredths of a second to the good for now. And it will be a top time for Ryan Preece, 49.366. 300ths of a second quicker than his teammate Berry. Top of the charts for Ryan Preece. 5 drivers still to qualify, and they will qualify in the order of Austin Cindric, then Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland will be the last driver to qualify and round things out here this afternoon. Daryl Bennett, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for that comment as well. My dog Folt, thanks for tuning into the stream also. I read your comment earlier, didn't shout you out. Earl Arnold Jr. Many others. Easy Network. Frank Powers. Edgar. Thanks for each and every one of you tuning in here this afternoon. Great to see you back after no Cup Series coverage last week and being at Michigan. But we are back here for qualifying today and the race tomorrow. Again, Xfinity Series race coverage as well. That will begin here tonight. Well, Friday night Xfinity Series race at Daytona, and that race will begin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern right here on the channel. Our Cup Series coverage tomorrow night will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race. And the Truck Series coverage Sunday afternoon at the Milwaukee Mile, that will begin at 4 p.m. Eastern. So, again, those are the updates on the start times for our live commentary schedule for this weekend. A 49.451 for Austin Cindric. He was 5th fastest of 6 cars, and he was the first driver in this descending qualifying order not to go to the top of the speed charts from the driver in front of him. Will that be a trend, or is it just a one-off? We'll have to wait and see. 4 drivers to qualify and try to knock Ryan Preece off the pole. And Larson is not tracking well to knock the SHR Fords off the top 3 spots currently. Larson a couple hundredths of a second in the red on the tracking indicator in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen on USA Network. Larson quicker than his teammate Chase Elliott, but not as quick as his other teammate William Byron in the final round. A 49.478 for Kyle Larson. A little over a tenth off the pole time currently of Ryan Preece. 3 drivers to go. Logano, McDowell, Gilliland. Logano on track. Appreciate that. Yeah, if you are not subscribed already, definitely hit that subscribe button. We are just at the 5,400 mark there. Maybe we can get to 6,000 before the end of the season. Playoffs haven't begun yet. I think we can get there. And again, our stream goal is to get to 50 likes, and we're at 43 right now. So we're very, very close to the end of this one through qualifying. So be sure to hit that like button so we can get to 50 likes before the end of this stream. Joey Logano to the top of the speed charts by 8/1000ths of a second over Ryan Preece at 49.358 for Logano. It was very similar to the lap he ran back in round 1. 49.218 was the lap time to the same thousandth of a second for both Gilliland and McDowell in their round 1 efforts through qualifying. That is why they are the last 2 to qualify here in that descending order from where they were in round 1. Gilliland trying to get the sweep. Had to go to the next decimal point to get that difference between the 34 and the 38 through round 1. It'd be insane if that happens for the second consecutive round, to be completely honest. It was a good lap by Logano trying to get his second front row start at Daytona. Remember, he was on the pole for the Daytona 500 earlier this season. Cup Series race tomorrow night, supposed to be on NBC. Corner entry speed into turn 1 for Michael McDowell, 184 miles per hour. He was at 183 right at the start-finish line on his get-up to speed lap. He's easily tracking in the green on Joey Logano, looking to take that top spot, but can he hold on his teammate Todd Gillen would be the next question. It's not even close. Michael McDowell is definitely in that top spot over Logano. Waiting for his lap time to pop up on screen. 49.136 for Michael McDowell, 183.165 mile per hour average. He picked up almost 800ths of a second, a little over 800ths from round 1 to round 2. And the difference between first and second right now is just over 2/10. That is insane. McDowell trying to go for his third pole of the season. Never qualified on the pole in his Cup career until this year. He's got 2 poles already. And looking for another here today, but can Todd Gillen get his first career pole and take it away from his teammate? Gillen staying at Front Row Motorsports through next season. Michael McDowell is not. It's close, but it looks like Michael McDowell tracked well through turns 1 and 2. Gillen losing a little bit of time on the backstretch. He's going to need a pretty big pickup in 3 and 4, and he's not going to get it, but he will stay to second. Michael McDowell, for the 3rd time this season and the 3rd time in his career, has qualified on the pole. And for the 2nd time this year, has qualified on the front row at the Daytona International Speedway. He started 2nd in the 500, but tomorrow night's race, he will be starting from position number 1. A Front Row Motorsports lockout of round 1 and round 2 of qualifying. Gillen, who won round 1, did not win round 2. He was 2nd here. Difference by almost 1/10 of a second between McDowell and Gillen. Again, at 49.136 is your pole time here tonight for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, which will be tomorrow's Cup Series race. That was an average speed of 183.165 miles per hour. We'll have the rest of your starting lineup when the USA Network comes back from their current commercial break. So be sure to stay tuned here. We will have the full starting lineup for tomorrow's race when they come back from the commercial, and we will obviously get an interview from your pole sitter, Michael McDowell, as well. So you guys were wrong in the chat. The chat poll stated that somebody other than Logano, McDowell, or Busch will get the pole today. Only 8%, rather 7%. 7% took Michael McDowell of 66 votes. Well, McDowell proved you all wrong, except for those 7%. As Michael McDowell did get the pole here today. He was one of the favorites for it coming in. Again, 3rd pole of the season for Michael. Yeah, 2/10 difference between 1st and 3rd, almost 1/10 of a second. 98 1/1000ths of a second exactly was the difference between McDowell and Gillen after running the same lap time to the 1,000th of a second in round 1. Billy picked McDowell. There you go. We're 4 likes away from our goal of 50 as well, so be sure to hit that like button again if you're on your way out of the stream. A few more moments away from getting our starting lineup for tomorrow's race yet. And again, our Xfinity Series race coverage will begin 1 hour from now at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Just going to say McDowell, but the poll closed. Yeah, I couldn't leave it open all the way to the end. I had to close it after round 1 was done at least. Usually when we do the polls for the races themselves, I'll leave them open until the end of stage 2 as to who you think will win, and then I close them out. I don't want to keep them open to the very end, otherwise, especially on non-super speedway tracks, I feel like the pole's going to shift quite a bit in the favor of one person in the final 100 laps or so of the race, so I try to keep that from happening. Try to get as close to a mid or pre-race prediction on that as possible.
You'll see the green drop at 7:30, and then tomorrow, 7 p.m. same time, countdown to green for the Coke Zero Sugar 400, and we'll go racing at 7:30 tomorrow evening. And remember that every green flag lap you will see live tonight and tomorrow. Exciting times, and exciting times if you're Michael McDowell in Front Row Motorsports, right, Dave?
Yeah, it is, Dip. And it's hard to keep up with the pole sitter because it got lots of people to thank, lots of backs to slap. And somebody just said to me that deserves a wow, what a lap.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of everybody at Front Row Motorsports to, have both cars on the front row is amazing. Just a testament to, how hard everybody's working at Front Row. We know we got 2 shots left here. This is a big weekend for us, so to have both cars up front is really important. Hopefully we can, stay up front and control the race and give ourselves a fighting chance to get in these playoffs. But right now, I'm just really proud of everybody. I mean, it's hard to come down to these super speedways and sit on the pole. And, Roush Yates engines are just crushing it right now. I think we got 6 out of the top 10 there. So really proud of everybody. It's a, team effort when you come down here. Driver doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. I feel for Todd. I mean, I know he wanted his first pole so bad, and this is our 3rd this year. It'd have been nice to share the love, but really proud of the 38 team, and those guys have fought hard this year, and I know that their time's coming. But today is awesome to get this Long John Silver Ford Mustang on the pole.
Michael McDowell, and you'll start first tomorrow night, Diff.
Yes, 4th career pole for Michael.
The rest of the starting lineup for tomorrow's Coke Zero Sugar 400. Again, the front row lockout of the front row. Michael McDowell on the pole for the 3rd time this season. Todd Gilliland will be starting in the 2nd place position for row number 1. Row number 2 will be Joey Logano, followed by Ryan Preece on the outside. Josh Berry with Chase Briscoe in row 3. Row 4 will be William Byron, Austin Cindric. Row number 5, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott. Row number 6 is going to be Kyle Busch with Brad Keselowski. Chris Buescher with Ryan Blaney in row 7. Row 8 for Noah Gragson and Austin Dillon. And row number 9, Martin Truex Jr. with Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Harrison Burton in row 10. Row 11 will be Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez. That changed way too quick for me. Oh, geez. I rewinded back to the commercial. That was an accident. Why can't I skip out of the commercial when I rewinded it back into the commercial? That doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. Well, I fudged that up. My controller was quite a bit delayed. Hang on, I might be able to look at the live qualifying time on here. Let me refresh the page real quick. I'll go all the way back through it again. I'm logging out of Hulu. I might have to go to my phone to try to read it. I don't know why it was wanting me to go all the way through that ad break again. Oh, I've only got the top 10. Probably not going to update until they close the raw feed down, which I don't know how much more time it's going to be before they do that. Yeah, it's only got the top 10 still. Well, I apologize for that. I'll reiterate the top 10 at least. Through qualifying again, Michael McDowell on the front row. I don't know why. They were blowing through it so fast on the USA Network that I did not have enough time to read it like I usually do. That was way too quick. Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland, row number 1 for this one. McDowell on the pole again, 3rd pole of the season. Row number 2 will be Joey Logano, Ryan Preece. Row number 3, Josh Berry with Chase Briscoe. Row 4 for William Byron, Austin Cindric. Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott make up row number 5, rounding out the top 10. And I don't think I'm going to be able to read off the rest of the qualifying order for you guys. I don't remember USA Network going that quick flying through it. But needless to say, that is going to end up finishing it. Yeah, my remote, when I was trying to pause it, was a little delayed, so I tried to rewind it like 10 seconds, and it flipped me back to the commercial break, and then I couldn't get out of the commercial break. I'm like, I'm not sitting here with dead silence for 3 minutes, so yeah. Sorry for that. Little technical difficulties on that part of things. I will still see you guys later on tonight, though. Again, our coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, about 1 hour from now. We'll have NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage, flag to flag, full live commentary, just like you had here for this Coke Zero Sugar 400 qualifying session for the NASCAR Cup Series. And again, our Cup Series start time tomorrow night will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern, with our truck coverage on Sunday as well at the Milwaukee Mile for their playoff opener, and that will be at 4 p.m. Eastern. So those are the start times for the rest of the weekend. It is posted in the community tab as well. Hope to see you later tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, as we kickstart our Daytona race weekend for NASCAR right here on the channel KRC. Appreciate everybody tuning in. See you in a little bit.